Strike up the band so you can...
Believe it or not, I once had 5 groups perform 18 songs, and it was all in under 60 minutes. I'll tell you about that in just a minute, but I do want to remind you, I know that you want a handsome Italian person to come and share some professional development. I am semi-retired now, working half-time at a charter school, and the other half of the time I'm sharing my experience, learned the hard way most of the time, with other groups. So please give me a call, 719-238-4193, and invite me or ask me some questions about that. So the reason I ended up having a performance like this is because of my experience with my own kids. When they were in high school, it seemed like the concerts would just drag on and on and on, and there'd be 3 groups maybe performing, but the concert would be 2 hours, 15 minutes long. And actually, most of the time was spent setting up each group between the groups. That took more time than the actual performance did. And the kids were trying to get every chair exactly right and the perfect number of chairs. And then there'd be a struggle with there weren't enough seats or enough stands for whatever group. And so that just drove me crazy. And I'm thinking, it doesn't matter with the performance. I came to see the kids. I don't care if there's a couple of empty chairs. And so it started off with just me having the stage set up with whatever my largest group was. And that's the setup that every group uses. They sit or fit within that setup. But then I thought, how can I make it happen so that the concert is not this long, dragged out experience, that it's something that we can go see and it's over with in a short amount of time. And even with 18 songs, people left this saying, wow, that seemed like a really fast-paced concert. It didn't seem long at all. So here's my tips to get 5 groups. The groups were 3 concert bands, an orchestra, and a jazz band. 5 groups, 18 songs in under 60 minutes. First of all, as I just mentioned, don't move any chairs. Set it up for your biggest group. Secondly, jazz band was set up in the back of the auditorium. In that particular auditorium, we had a wide aisle that we used that for a while. And then someone said we were breaking the fire code. And so we actually would take the back 3 rows of seats, and I had some way to figure out the drum set that didn't break the fire code. But we got that to work from there. And when it was time for a group to move, so I believe I started with one of the concert bands or maybe the orchestra, but when it was time to move from the stage, I would kick off the jazz band. 1, 2, 1, 2, ready, go. And whoever was on stage would leave stage left, and the new group coming on stage would arrive stage right. Now, by the time the concert band was done with their song, the group would be on stage because they had been seated in order in the audience, so they were able to quietly file on stage and make that as effortlessly as possible. And they were seated, ready to go, and they had been instructed to have their song ready. So then as soon as jazz band was done, I would hop back up on the stage, and we would get right immediately into playing the first song for that next group. Now, some of you might say, well, how about tuning? Well, sometimes we would play a note or two, or the advanced group would play a chorale. But I have a couple of pet peeves. If you don't know what a pet peeve is, it's something that really annoys you to no end. So a couple of pet peeves I've acquired over the years is when I see a director have each kid play into the tuner before their group starts, and then the group plays, and I'm thinking to myself, that didn't help. I don't know why they spent that time doing it, because tuning can't be something that you fix one note and then you're good to go. It's something you train the kids to do, to listen for. And so tuning each individual kid is not going to help any. Another pet peeve, this is a little bit off the subject, but I've seen directors in parades who are marching next to the kids, and they're trying to yell out instructions for them which foot they're supposed to be on. It's too late at that point, and it didn't help. It's still, the group was still out of step. So we would do this throughout. So we'd have like the orchestra play 2 or 3 songs, the jazz band would play one song. The concert band would play, jazz band, symphonic band, jazz band, and then wind ensemble would be the last group that played. So the one tricky transition was that last one because my jazz band students were also in wind ensemble. And so when the jazz band would finish their song, then we'd have about a 30-second transition while those students got to the stage. But everybody else in the wind ensemble was already on stage. A couple of more tips to help make something like this work. Script out the entire concert. And what I mean by script out, you don't have to write everything you're going to say, but put on paper who's going to move when. So we're going to perform songs 1, 2, and 3. The orchestra is going to start on stage. I reversed that. The orchestra is going to start on stage. We're going to perform songs 1, 2, and 3. And then orchestra is going to move while jazz band plays song 1 and concert band is moving to the stage. Give this script to the students. Now, we would practice for several days, sometimes for a week. We would practice this in the auditorium, and we would be doing the going on the stage and coming off the stage portion, because for some reason it seems like kids have to do that at least once or twice before it kind of gets ingrained into them, especially the younger groups. Now, we never had a dry run where all the groups were there. The first time I did this, I was terribly worried about how it was going to work. But for me, the script helped out a lot. And occasionally I would have to get a group going because maybe they were like stalling in their movement. But there were very few hiccups in that. And we would each group would practice its own thing that it was doing. And then I had roped off seating for them in the auditorium, and we just moved that. I hope that this has been helpful to you, and I hope you're able to have 5 groups, 18 songs, all in under 60 minutes.
The Music Ed Podcast, where you get quick and easy tips for how to be a better band teacher.